It's Wednesday, October 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I am Bob Harris. This is the Football Diehards YouTube channel, and it's time to go on the hot seat. First, FootballDiehards.com is the website. We appreciate you joining us here on the YouTube channel every Wednesday at this time. And Saturdays at noon for the Ask Me Anything live streams. They're a good time as well. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You know how to do. If you haven't already done those things, it's the like button I'm asking you to press. I'm going to hit the dislike button to open the floodgates there. You don't have to feel like you're first in. If you don't like me, I don't care. Well, I do care. It would hurt my feelings a little bit. But go ahead. Jump in. We've got a great show today because we have a great guest. We always have great guests. This one's as great as any of them, though, because his name rhymes with great. It's Nate. Nate Marcum from Fantasy and Frames is here with me. Nate, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. Look at you. The intro, ad-libbing and everything. You got rhyming down. I'm very impressed with you, Bob.
Rhymes are great. This is the only thing I'm doing well. If anyone looks at my combined records for my fantasy squads, you would see it's a little bit of a battle. You should follow Nate on Twitter, by the way, at Nate Marcum. It's just his name, NateMarcum. And check him out at Fantasy and Frames. Great group of people. Some of my favorite folks out there doing their thing on the YouTube channels and whatnot. Jorge's put together a stellar cast of individuals, including Nate, who, by the way, is a top 5 IDP ranker on Fantasy Pro. So something to be going there. You see him on the Shoot the Gap podcast, a little defensive talk there, and others. He's on the YouTube all the time. So check him out and check out Fantasy and Frames as well. Just subscribe to that channel. Hope you're all having a great week. There's a couple newsy items before we get into the meat and taters of things. Anthony Richardson season is over. They're going to operate on that man's shoulder. Kyler Murray back in the practice room. Got the window activated for him. Doesn't sound like it'll be this week. Josh Dobbs will be playing this week. Who are they playing? Seattle Seahawks. So something going on there. Trevor Lawrence, Thursday night game, listed as questionable. Expect him to play. Christian McCaffrey's a little beat up. He has until Monday to get it together. So does Deebo Samuel. The Lions, the running back room. We have issues, people. We have issues. David Montgomery, expected to miss this game, has a rib injury. Craig Reynolds shows up on the injury report today as well. He did not practice, toe and something else, so that's worth noting. Jahmyr Gibbs worked on a limited basis. I don't want to say anything nice about him because I don't want to jinx him, but could be my chance, Nate. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I want to say Kyron Williams, a running back one up to this point, is out. He'll miss a number of weeks, a handful of weeks. Won't go on IR, it doesn't sound like, so maybe fewer than 4. Ronnie Rivers also out, so the Rams are going with a combination of players. I'm sure we'll get questions about Nate, Zach Evans. They raised Royce Freeman from the practice squad. They added Darrell Henderson to the practice squad. That's a sneaky one to watch for. He knows the offense. They also brought Myles Gaskin on board. A few other quarterback issues. Josh Allen should be fine dealing with a shoulder injury. Justin Fields less fine dealing with a thumb injury. Can't hold on to football. Looks like we'll get some more Tyson Bagent. Is that your guy, Nate? Is that who your ride and die is?
Oh yeah. I was a dynasty Superflex with 47 teams, and I still would question starting him.
Poor Deshaun Watson's shoulder, an ongoing issue. Doesn't matter. PJ Walker's there, and he's very good. Daniel Jones still ailing a little bit. Jimmy Garoppolo's got issues as well. So we'll get into all that as we get into your questions. Just a few things to get started with, Nate. As we get into this point of the season, we've got a Byepocalypse week. We got a ton of teams on the bye. I probably have the entire list in front of me somewhere. Yeah, I do. Panthers, Bengals, Cowboys, Jets, Titans, Texans. Could be worse, but it's not great. The Bengals and the Cowboys, probably some pieces there you like. Maybe a few Jets, Breece Hall said. Titans, not as many. Texans, probably more Texans than Titans. Who knew? And, of course, when the Panthers are out, there is no Adam Thielen, the best player in the NFL right now. So what are we going to do about this? So, Nate, as we head into this portion of the year, we'll talk a little bit about your strategy in terms of waiver wire. How aggressive are you being? Have you already been aggressive? Do you have money left, or are you ready to spend right now?
I unfortunately have money left, or fortunately. I don't know which way to look at that because I've missed out on some of that running back palooza over the last couple weeks that I think everybody did. And are you disappointed that you don't have any money left? Or are you happy because the people, DeMercados of the world who went for way too many galleons that isn't going to return value? But typically I'd like to be more aggressive early on to get most value out of my fab dollars. But at this point, I think it goes along with, where you're at in the standings. I mean, not that that's interesting, because if I'm in last, I'm still spending money and being competitive. And I hope everybody else is too. So let's make sure that I don't want to ever give the inclination that I'm in last and I'm done spending fab and trying to ruin everybody else's season. But yeah, I'm still aggressive, still trying to play spoiler, still trying to, work all the angles.
Yeah, being the spoiler is fine. Hello, Andrea. Hello, Jim Furry, Mr. Scampers. Happy to see you. John Bonneville, pleasure to have you here, sir. Royal Slade, fantastic. Dame, everybody's here. The whole gang's here. Graham F., Remy, Ryan, Mike Art's in the house asking his questions. Willpower, hi, how are you? We'll get to some of these questions here momentarily as we go through some of these things. The Rams backfield, what do you think is the proper order here if you're prioritizing waivers right now?
If you, am I the Kyron Williams owner? I mean, it's like my priority was Zach Evans as far as like the immediate return. I think he's the best quick turnaround and quick return on your dollars. Darrell Henderson's probably the one that is I think the safest, like long terms, familiar with the system, can kind of come back in and won't have the absolute zeros, but probably won't have the ceiling play, and then insert every other junk piece into the mix. So, I mean, I think I go Evans, Henderson, and then I don't think I spend any more money.
Yeah, I don't even know. I wonder if you could get by on Henderson without spending even. I mean, it might be a little risky. It might be a more minimal bid. I got Evans in a league in the Pros with Joe's league, I think for $22, which I felt like was a steal. I saw someone pay way more for Jordan Mason, which is the next one up for me before we get into the questions. My question is, how do you think the backfield plays out for the 49ers? We saw Jordan Mason get some run. I wonder if it wasn't because Mitchell was in his first week back from the injury. Maybe we see a flip-flop if there is no McCaffrey. And we don't know that. People don't panic. They have until Monday. It sounds like there's still a pretty good chance for Christian McCaffrey to get out there. But if you're being proactive right now, what is the desired? What do you think the team's desired outcome is?
I agree with you. I think that it was a product of, and Shanahan even backed that up too, saying that since Mitchell only could get one practice in, he wasn't fully capable of handling a heavier workload. Not that they anticipated McCaffrey getting hurt, but in that instance. And so I've always been leaning towards Mitchell over Mason myself, to the point where I think both are viable. Like there's enough, volume to go around, especially if you don't have Debo in the mix. And then there's added more looks that could come their direction. So I go Mitchell and then Mason, but in a pinch, if I had to start Mason as a flex, I'm not terribly excited, but I'm also not terribly disappointed.
Yeah, I see John Bonneville. I'm kind of with you there. I feel like he feels like they still prefer Mitchell. And this is something maybe we learned a lesson last week with the Cardinals where, Keontae Ingram came back and was the primary guy, and Amari DiMercado was the secondary piece. Damian Williams was maybe the secondary piece. But like sometimes the teams have told us in advance what they'd like the outcome to be. I think we saw that with Jerome Ford as well, right? They had the decision the Browns did earlier this summer. They could have kept Kareem Hunt on board. Instead, they went with Ford. So you see that's their desired outcome. It doesn't always work out how they want it, just like our decisions don't work out the way we want it. But I think that is kind of what you go with. What I go with as a fantasy manager is what I think the team wants. And by the way, it's a hamstring, says Mr. Scampers for Craig Reynolds, that other piece. So we'll have some things to sort out here. Let's jump into the questions and appreciate everyone showing up. It's FootballDiehards.com. Go there, check it out. If you want to get in on the fun, the Flash Update Premium service up and running, you can get a prorated version of that. Use the promo code DieHards to get a discount if you'd like. And tons of good content up there from tons of good people. You know them all, but I'll recount them all towards the end. Let's get into questions, Nate. Someone dropped Roshan Johnson, says Josh Earl. Worth using my number one waiver priority on him. Running backs are currently Ramondre, Rashad White, Kyron, Zach Evans, McLaughlin, and Jordan Mason.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. If this was just a few weeks ago, he would, as soon as the Khalil Herbert news would have broken, if he'd have been healthy, he would have been the easy number one, and he would have commanded every one of your pennies in fab possible. So I'm on board with that. I wasn't blown away with Deontay Foreman. and I don't know if I just am happy for one thing. Roschon is a much better pass blocker than Deontay Foreman is. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but I can promise you that's going to keep him on the field a lot longer after watching last week's debacle of Foreman trying to stop anything.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, and I do think that we'll see. He did not practice today, so that's a little bit of a concern. It's something we'll have to watch. He had the 10-day turnaround to the last game to get cleared from the protocol, and he did not. And the fact that he did not practice at all is a little concerning to me. That'll be something you'd want to watch out there, Josh Earl. But I think over the course of time, we know Khalil Herbert's going to be out for 3 more games at least. So that's fair. Will Power wants to know, who would you rather have rest of season in a best ball league? Are you making moves still, Will Power, in the best ball league? Okay. Kirk Cousins, Geno, or Derek Carr? His other quarterback is Jalen Hurts.
Man, I guess Geno's probably the best upside for a big splash game just because the weapons around him. As far as his
Cousins. Do you think Cousins, because no Jefferson, is takes a hit?
I don't think the ceiling is that much separated between the two, especially if we look at like some of the matchups that they have left, at least if I'm being optimistic, is Arizona this week, Washington, the Rams. Actually, then it gets tough. Take that back. I mean, come playoff time, if you look that far ahead, if you want to do best ball and that's how the playoffs work, Seattle has Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Arizona 16, 17, 18. So that's something to keep in mind. I would love to say that I knew that going in, Bob, and that's what pushed my vote, but it's going to help keep my vote with Geno.
Yeah, I think like honestly, I think you're correct. I mean, the obviously the weapons without Justin Jefferson, and by the way, Justin Jefferson's on IR. He could return after 4 games, but will he? We don't know. There's talk that he needs an MRI at that point. Then where do the Vikings stand in terms of their level of success? Is it worth his while to come back and risk further injury, seeing as the team didn't give him the big contract he wanted this summer? So there's something to go there. Hi, Mike Arts. I appreciate you. This is his IPA hour every Wednesday. That sounds great. IPA. What is the IPA? Is that something good, Nate?
It is an acquired taste for many. It's an Indian pale ale. It's a real hoppy beer. And so it is for the beer enthusiasts that like the different flavors of beer, etc. Not quite so much for us.
The connoisseurs. I know yes. Chris Allen from Fantasy Life is likes to make his own beer and stuff, and he's into that kind of stuff. I think Ratcliffe is as well.
Yeah,
interesting.
Brian at the expo, I brought some for it. He had a whole cooler in the room to share with people, and they're good. You're not going to sit around the bar like we did and have more than a couple. It's different.
I'm going to have 0. You guys wouldn't like me when I drink. So appreciate you coming, Mike Arts. Ryan, glad to make show. I'm glad you made it, and work always gets in the way. I'm glad it's not in the way right now. Ryan, let's see. Mike has another question here. Full PPR need 2. Pittman versus Browns. Look at what he's doing, people. When you're asking your questions, tell us who they're playing so we don't have to think as hard or look at our little sheets or whatever. Full PPR need 2. Pittman versus Browns. Olave versus the Jaguars. Dubs versus the Broncos. I like that latter matchup, but is that the right play?
Yeah, Olave has a tough matchup in Lattimore. I think that's not Lattimore. He has other way around. Actually, he gets Tyson Campbell's
a good matchup, right?
Huh?
He gets a good matchup, right?
Yeah. So one of the two does. I'm not quite sure who's going to get who. So the alignment could be because with Tyson Campbell out, I think that's Michael Thomas, who they do switch sides, but Thomas predominantly plays more in a better matchup. But yeah, what was the third one? I apologize.
It was Pittman.
Yeah. I know Cleveland's tough, but I mean, it's been, what is he, 5th in targets right now?
Yeah, the volume's there.
Yeah, the volume's there for sure.
If you go out on the Twitterverse right now, they call it X now. the Fantasy Sports Channel, I have a whole little segment that they put up on video talking about volume. Volume matters, people. It's the cure all for matchups and teams that aren't producing well. Volume is the key, the wellspring for all fantasy production. I would go Pittman and Olave myself probably, but I do like Doves a little bit. But I'm going with those top two. Also, Mike Arts, Zach Moss, Jameel McLaughlin, or Keontae Ingram in full PPR. Is the days of playing Zach Moss kind of done now? Are we seeing the true ramp up, or have we seen enough to rethink that that Moss is ready to take the back seat?
That's what I would have gathered going into this week, at least especially in a PPR where we saw Taylor really command some of the stranglehold there. But compared to those other two options, is the unlikely or likely scenario that maybe we're all caught with a left hook in Indy, and we don't know what they're going to do with Moss versus Taylor versus Ingram, and that matchup against Seattle's not terrible, but I don't trust that it's not, like you said earlier, with Damian Williams and that mix. And Denver's a three-headed back, right? A three-headed monster. So what would you rather have? The piece of two-headed monster in Indy or a piece of three-headed in both of those two? I think I'd rather have Moss. And I hate to say that because I don't really care for Moss that much.
Yeah, I think Moss is more of, look, he has big playability. I think that's what you're counting on with McLaughlin. So I think maybe Keontae Ingram going against Seattle is the right answer.
Yeah, you might be right.
I think that might be the direction I go. At least he's the lead back, and he's the chairman of a committee. And I'm probably going to go in that direction, and unhappily so, Mike R. So Ryan needs one of running back, full point PPR, Zach Evans versus Pittsburgh, Javonte Williams versus Green Bay. Is it Javonte? Yeah, Javonte versus Green Bay. Or Ingram versus Seattle, or Justice Hill versus Detroit. We got a fourth in the mix. Detroit's been crushing the run, right?
Yeah. Detroit's given up the fewest points to running backs all year. I wouldn't want to start anybody against Detroit's defense. Pittsburgh is probably the matchup that I like the best, which is still not great, but it's better than the others, that's for sure. And the volume, like you said.
Yeah, I don't mind Devontae Williams. I feel like maybe I want to wait and see if we get a little more information. I think Zach Evans is going to be the guy.
I do too.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be the guy. I'm not like 100% sure, but like 95% sure, just based on what we saw the last game. I know Javonte Williams is the first piece of that committee, and I know Ingram is the first piece of his committee. So, I kind of want to play Evans. So Ryan, let's watch for more information. You know where to find us. I'll be here again Saturday and see if anything changes. For right now, I'm going to go with the provisional Zach Evans.
Yeah.
Hi, Remy. How are you? In the chat, Remy asked us this. He needs a tight end device. I have Hunter Henry, who has not been performing well. He's also nicked up, did not practice today. I can drop him and either pick up Logan Thomas, ding, 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 Luke Musgrave, or David Njoku. Nate, are you co-signing on my ringing of the bell with Logan Thomas?
Yes, I am. Yeah, and to be honest, I'm attacking the Logan Thomas and many. He was so available for way too long and just buried. Like if you look at many of the sites, they have their projected point totals and whatnot, and even they were off in terms of where they expected them. And maybe that's because fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, and that whole rigmarole with Logan Thomas.
I think the thing with Logan Thomas, and I've talked a little bit about this before, but I would like to repeat it. Sometimes, and I thought this, might have thought it was going to be Cole Turner, but hey, somebody there was going to play in a significant role in the offense they're bringing over from Kansas City, because the tight end is a significant role there. And that's not to pretend that anyone in Washington is Travis Kelce, but they have that role to fill in a similar offense. So I'm sure they make adjustments for their personnel. Curtis Samuel's getting stuff done there as well, but not Jahan Dotson. What happened to that guy? He's fallen off the face of the earth. What are you doing with Jahan Dotson right now, Nate? Is he droppable for you?
I think at this point, I've held on to him way too long. And they were last week was the first sign that they would even go out wide to attack any of the wide receivers in targets. Because, I mean, that's been just atrocious as far as like any given between McLaurin and Dotson. Now we see Curtis Samuel's in the mix more than ever. Antonio Gibson's starting to get more into the mix now. Yeah, I'm out on Jahan Dotson. Unfortunately, too, because everything said he was supposed to be stellar this year. You know, everything we use.
I think it's interesting because I think Terry McLaurin, I don't have the numbers up in front of me and maybe I should get them up, but I know there was a period where, I mean, he's getting far less target share than the average wide receiver one. I think Dotson was getting even less. I mean, and it seems to be diminishing. Not that anyone's getting a ton, but for a team that throws the ball a ton, there hasn't been a lot of production for that guy, Jahan Dotson. Graham F. has the question next. Hi, Bob. Hello, Graham. And Nate says hi, too. Nate, say hi.
Hello, Graham.
Yeah. There we go. Half-point PPR. Which two? DJ Moore, Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs, Zay Flowers. Normally DJ would be automatic, but concerned with his quarterback obviously this week. Any concerns about volume for Puka? Thanks.
I don't have concerns for volume against Puka. Hell, like last week, he still was 30% target. I mean, I'm not
right. I had a down week, but not a down target week.
No, and I think that's the one area that we know. And I mean, there was a drop. I think there was two drops that would have kept drives going. Two other drops that would have been potential touchdowns for Stafford. So I think it's trending in the right direction for Stafford in the positive regression for the touchdown stance. And Puka, and now you don't have Kyron, so I don't think there's going to be nearly as much volume out of the backfield either. So I think that's all systems go for Puka. That's the question. What do you think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be?
DJ Moore is I mean, I can see the conundrum there, right? I mean, what is our level of trust in Tyson Bagent? I mean, it's not an insurmountable matchup against the Raiders, obviously, but I might go, and Gibbs is still a little uncertain. If it gets late in the week, I would probably, and Gibbs looks like he's going to play, I would probably go that direction. Sounds like there'll be a good receiving role for him, if nothing else, and maybe more if if Reynolds is still beat up and we know there's going to be no Montgomery. I think Zay Flowers is the next choice, but is also, I mean, he's a viable play as well. I'm gonna play this one out a little bit, Graham, and see what happens with Gibbs before I make the final decision. But not wanting to play more. Look, we've learned things, right? Like, we can look no further than last week in a brutal matchup against the San Francisco defense we all thought was going to stonewall P.J. Walker. Here was Amari Cooper out there making plays. Why? Because Amari Cooper's a good player, and he makes plays. And I've preached since forever that less than ideal quarterback plays do not preclude great receivers from getting the job done. So I don't want to overstate my case on this one, Graham. I think right now I'm probably still playing DJ Moore and Nacua. If Jahmyr Gibbs is ready to go, like, Gibbs and Flowers are both good options, viable plays, right? So if you have that concern about, Bagent and the situation there, you have plenty of good pivots. So if you want to pivot away from him, Gibbs is my next choice if available. Flowers is perfectly fine if Gibbs isn't. I think, is that a fair arrival? Have I come to the right spot, Nate?
I think so. And I will support DJ Moore with one more little piece of advice or information, is that DJ Moore, a lot of his production is after the catch. So you don't have to have that real accurate passer like, Justin Fields was. But yeah, he's 4th or 5th in the NFL in yards after catch. He's 4th. So there's something to be said that he could make a lot out of a little, even if it is a who is that at quarterback.
Right. And again, I mean, I guess, Graham, this is your decision. And, you can make part of this is like, you look at your opponent's lineup. Do you need a home run play? Do you need a super high-end production? Look at the rest of your lineup and say, wow, I've got a pretty solid lineup. I just need to avoid a 0. Well, then maybe like a Flowers then is the perfect piece for that. So there you have it. A lot to chew on. Come hit me up again Saturday if you get a chance, Graham. I see you there often, so we'll figure it out on Gibbs in that real time. And, some of that's going to depend on if the other pieces around Gibbs, because, look, I'm invested. I'm not crazy. Been burned a little bit by the Jahmyr Gibbs. Felt the heat. Singed. Sam Bam 68. Any updates on Jeff Wilson Jr., Devon Achane, or Kyler Murray? Just lost Richardson and Fields on back-to-back weeks as well. a whole lot of IR on my team. So Wilson is practicing fully, or did today. Sounded like he was close last week. They needed somebody else at another position, so he didn't get the call up. I think he will be there this week. Devon Agchan is on IR, so he'll be another 3 weeks. Kyler Murray, they just opened the practice window. He will not return this week, so won't give you much help this week. But, looking forward, seems likely. What do you think of Kyler Murray, rest of season, Nate, if you're out there pursuing quarterbacks?
I mean, I guess if you're pursuing quarterbacks, you'll never find anyone potentially with a higher ceiling on the waiver wire. If he's on the waiver wire, if people don't have the luxury of whatever spot you could have used in your league, if it's an IR, if it's just a deep bench or whatever. This was my question I was going to have for you as well. Is this an audition for a trade, or is this a legitimate, the Cardinals really want him to come out like Hollywood was saying? He's not coming out. He's coming out to really play. And I mean, Hollywood was on his way out a couple days ago, from what I understand, with all the trade rumors and everything else. So
right.
I don't know. I'm really confused as to what their angle is. But either way, if you have a chance to acquire him, even if he doesn't stay on Arizona, there's really good value in that.
Yeah. So I mean, they've opened his practice window. He has 3 weeks, so they still have a decision to make on him. I think I'm kind of with you. It sounds I'm going to go ahead and take Hollywood at his word. I don't think he's out there stringing us along, but it's a concern there. I think I think you have to be careful with that, and not get, like, if you're in a position, it sounds like you will be, without Richardson and Fields both. Like, you need somebody who's going to be on the field. I'd probably look somewhere else for right now. And if you have room on your roster to make a speculative play, then Kyler's a speculative play. John Bonneville thinks the 49ers could be the Vikings with their third string players. If it's Jordan Mason, yes. John Bonneville also. Hello, Pigskin Panic 21. Nice to see you. By the way, I'm Bob Harris. He's Nate Marcum. We're here with you. You can find him at Fantasy and Frames. Great YouTube channel. Go give it a subscription. Hit their notification bell as well. Tons of great people working there. My friend Stacy Perez, Chris, a whole bunch of guys. Jorge has put together a sterling cast of characters, and I catch them often, and I hope you do too. Nate also very, very good with the IDP. What's just take a brief moment here. The IDP landscape, what do we need to know this week as some of the key players? I know there's some injury issues, some guys going on IR. Are there anybody we should be out there looking to acquire in the IDP world right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of depth, like some good linebacker pieces right now that, as a result of injury, are available. And like one of those, Nate Landman with Atlanta, is a name that many people probably don't know, but he's had consistent production over the last couple of weeks because Troy Anderson's been hurt. And that's like finding, as we said, with the running back situation. If you can find a good running back out there, that is a bonus. And that's just like with the linebackers standpoint. Who's been crazy good? Jadeveon Clowney from an IDP standpoint. He has been like, there was this run-stopping moniker that he's had for years. He has 29 pressures on the season, which is, I think it took him nearly 2 years to accomplish in the past. It's been some interesting moves from players that we didn't expect to see. Chase Young has made a return. He's viable again. This season for sure. This is the what the hell's going on type season. As a whole, it filters and spills over into IDP. Yeah.
By the way, Stacy is in the audience. Hello, Stacy. Nice to see you. I have stolen your Amari DiMercato Italian style. It's great, and I cite you all the time. Amari DiMercato. I feel like I'm in like Godfather 2 when I say it like that. I love it. So here we go. Back into the questions. There are any teams that fine. Grab it. Oh yeah, Mecole Hardman traded back to Kansas City. What do you think of that one, Nate? A Pigskin Panic 21. Go grab some Mecole while you can. I mean, this seems like a better place for him. He was kind of coming on late last season, right? And it's not like anyone has stepped up and demanded Rashee Rice, notwithstanding. I mean, no one's demanding the football constantly. He cobble together a role for us there?
He may cobble together a role of a wide receiver 3 that's filling in a spot where there's been injuries. Justin Watson got hurt, so instead of them, I guess, looking elsewhere and trying to get someone in, because that offense is very difficult to get a good grasp on. And to bring someone off the street is a challenge, especially for Mahomes to have trust in. And so that's what McCole Hardman brings. He brings a trust factor that Patrick likes to have. I don't see it being a significant role myself, but then again, that's one Kadarius Toney and another potential Sky Moore situation away from him being on the field 75% of the time. And that's one of those things, if I could be in that league where you can add people to a best ball league, I don't have any of them, but he would be the best ball, like with all the Chiefs receivers for all season.
Jim Furry keeps running out of running backs. Devin HN on IR, Montgomery out, Miles Sanders and Damian Pierce on buys. Has Tyler Algier, Keontae Ingram, and picked up Montgomery's backup. Who do I play? By the way, John Bonneville thinks they're just resting Reynolds today so he can get 30 carries this week, or at least that's his hope after picking him up. I think we all share in that, except me, because I like Jahmyr Gibbs. Who does he play? Tyler Algier has been getting a fair amount of work, but not doing a lot with it. Ingram, again, as the primary piece of that committee in Arizona. Which of those two would you prefer?
I'd probably still go with Tyler Algier. Like you said, the volume's still there. Tampa's a tough matchup, but at the same time, it's even no matter how dynamic Bijan is with the ball in his hand, Arthur Smith still wants to go to Algier almost with an even workload. And I don't think that we want that to stop. But again, I don't think he cares what we want. I think he wants to do what's going to help win ball games, and that's, ruin our running back games.
I think this one's very close. I might lean Ingram this week, but I mean, they're both like running back 3 range players. So you're taking your chances with either, Jim, but you have to take your chance. So there you have it. I do think I agree with what Nate said. I think he's still getting good volume there. Who is it? I just want to double check that. Yeah, Tampa Bay is not my favorite, looking at the numbers, but yeah, I'm probably going to lean Ingram here. We're going to split the vote on this one. Jim, Jordan Mason, Justice Hill were not picked up on waivers last night, so he probably is out there making that move. We're behind in the chat, Nate, because we always are. I'm just playing catch up on the questions, but yes, okay. Go get those guys. I don't like what do you make of the running back situation of Baltimore? I mean, Gus Edwards getting a fair amount of work, doing very little with it. Justice Hill getting a little less work, doing more with it. Keaton Mitchell out there on the peripheral, hoping some of my speculative investments work out on him. What are you doing? Is Justice Hill the play there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. From what we've seen, like you said, you hit the nail on the head as far as describing that backfield as a whole, which is kind of weird because I thought it would technically be the opposite. I really expected Gus to do more with less, and it hasn't necessarily panned out the way. I don't think the whole season for Baltimore has panned out like I had expected week in and week out. They still dynamic, but we're seeing just inconsistent workloads for both of those two backs. Like Gus Edwards in the last 3 weeks went from 70% snap shared all the way down to 40, back up to 60, and Justice Hill has filled in on the wonkiest side. So I'm leaning Justice Hill just for the.
I probably would too. Biding my time on the Keaton Mitchell. By the way, the whole Fantasy and Frames crew I'm just seeing now. Jorge, hello. Chris B, hello. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming by. We appreciate your support, sir. Andrea's, Ratcliffe is big on the IPAs. So I've filled in for Ratcliffe on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, and I remember that portion of it. It's crazy, people talking about all the beers and whiskey and all kinds of things that I don't know anything about. But I do like filling in for Ratcliffe. By the way, you can catch the Football Diehards radio program on Sirius 10 p.m. Monday, Thursday, Friday nights, at 8 p.m. on Saturday nights on both the NFL and the Fantasy Sports Radio channel. Also, me and Mans on Sundays from 11 to 1 doing the pregame thing. So that's always a good time. Mr. Scamper's pointing out Nose Jones, so he likes Christian Kirk against Alontae Taylor. I do think there are some matchups to exploit there. Depending on the quarterback, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. We shall see.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got going here. Roschon Johnson, if he clears protocol, Foreman or Jordan Mason. I'm going to say we're going to assume Roschon Johnson clears the protocol, that he's the pick. If not, which of the other two would you prefer, Nate?
I'm going to go with the team and go with Jordan Mason. As much as I think it'd be Elijah Mitchell, there's just the floor seems a little bit higher when you're with a better offense.
I would agree, and I think it would be both of them, so I think there would be some room. And I think, like Deontay Foreman, it was not great last week. I don't know if I would expect it to get a lot better. It doesn't look like he'll have much role as a receiver. They've got Darrington Evans in there that they've brought on board, who would probably be active and cut into it as well, so not happy. Pigskin Panic wants to know Jahan, too. We're just catching up with his comment to our previous conversation there. Kevin Payne. Hi, Kevin. Full PPR, need 2. Gibbs against the Ravens. Jerome Ford against the Colts. Godwin against the Falcons. Flowers against the Lions. Lockett against the Cardinals. And Watson against the Broncos. Ooh, 2.
That's a lot. You'd be writing these down. I'd be better prepared for that. I have one question as far as – go ahead.
Yeah, so Gibbs, Ford, Godwin, Flowers, Lockett, who I think I just see came on the injury report. I don't know how legit it is. So it's he is on the injury report, though. The Seahawks play those games a lot, though, early in the week. So Lockett and Christian Watson against the Broncos.
Yeah. Again, I think that a lot of that comes down to one thing you were saying, too. If you're looking for the explosive or the floor, the ceiling. Because I really do I love Zay Flowers' matchup this week. I don't like it going against Detroit necessarily, but I think that he will be the recipient of Detroit pressure as far as if Lamar's looking one of 2 ways, either Andrews or Zay. I don't see Aguilar or OBJ getting involved.
I feel like I'm focusing on the last 3 here, right? Like Watson against the Broncos seems like a good play. I mean, Jordan Love needs to play better, complete more passes. But I mean, even without Jordan Love playing well, he had the 3 catches last week, tons of yards, can take it all the way at any given time. So I kind of want some of that. I like Lockett against the Cardinals as well. I like Flowers against the Lions. I think those are the 3 I'm settling on for right now. And you only need 2 of those. Yeah. Maybe depends on Lockett's health. Well, let's watch that and see. I think for right now, I'm going to go Watson and Flowers, though, and just making it an easy, clean call. But Lockett's in the mix against the Cardinals. So let's watch that injury report. Check back with us Saturday, Kevin, and we'll see what's going on. But that's where I'm at right now. Gibbs could have a bigger role. I'm still not trusting it, Nate. Even if they give him a bigger role, he did have last time Montgomery was out, he had 17 carries, I want to say.
Yeah, and they had someone ate into a little bit of his workload, but not much.
It was Reynolds always does. So
yeah, 4 carries. It was Bam Knight. That's who it was. We had 4 carries as well.
Oh yeah, it's Donovan Knight, who won't be probably playing this week, so we don't have to worry about him.
Yeah,
I'm hoping Gibbs still becomes a thing, and I'm trying not to let that cloud my answer here, because my desire for him to become a thing has absolutely no bearing on him actually becoming a thing. Turns out, because if that was true, he would already be the best running back in all of football. So there you have it. Remy has 2 questions, running back questions. Should I start Alexander Madison versus San Francisco or Zach Evans versus Pittsburgh? There we have it.
Well, I have a hard time starting anybody against San Francisco in general. I especially if it's a person who I've never been that big on, and I know it's polarizing, Alexander Madison, but the volume will be there for Madison versus the potential volume out of Evans. But I'm still going to trust that it's going to be Zach Evans, and I'm going to lean Zach Evans for myself if I had to make that choice. But I think that's hedging against the 49ers, which I have a tendency to do quite often. And that burnt me last week. Jerome Ford had a great game and looked really well against them. I just don't think we can see the same thing out of Madison against them. I don't have the line.
I'm kind of with you. I kind of want to play Zach Evans here. I'll just, maybe a little wait and see, Remy. Make sure that we don't get some information that it's going to be more of a split than I'm thinking. But, we're going with the last thing we saw, which was Evans. Sean McVay mentioned that, that he was the guy who played last week, kind of being cryptic about it without committing, but seemed reasonable. Andrea, you're playing Dotson this week? Oh, do you feel good about that? In Mr. Fish's Bowl, Mr. Scamper needs number one, maybe number two. Not both quarterbacks. Needs one, maybe two of Minshew versus Cleveland. Jones versus Buffalo. Mac Jones versus Buffalo. Or Kareem Hunt at Indiana, or Taysom versus Jacksonville. Taysom, big catch game last week. His highest target share ever. I don't know if I'm expecting repeat there. What are you going to do in the fishbowl with these choices?
Well, so we don't lose points for interception in the fishbowl.
Right. There's no negatives.
There's no negatives. Unfortunately, the people that you have are all negatives, and I don't know what. I mean, let's see what's the Giants practice report for Daniel Jones? Did he get in a limited or?
It's Mac Jones that he has. It's
Mac. Oh, gotcha. Which is not much better. I would almost rather have an injured Daniel Jones than Mac Jones, but that's not fair. Sorry, Mac Jones.
It is.
Yeah, it is kind of fair. It's at this point now we're going into 7 weeks in. It's by history. I still think I'd rather take a quarterback versus the two options.
I would too. It's because they're also not like great options. I'm probably going in this order. I'm probably going Minshew over Mac Jones, realizing the matchup for Minshew is horrible. Also realizing Mac Jones is horribler, and Malik Cunningham is lurking in the weeds there, if not ready to take over. We've heard the short leash talk. I guess that's a concern. But do I want to trade in a short leash for Kareem Hunt, who by the way did not practice today, but nobody seems real worried about it, or Taysom, hoping for the big play there? Boy, that's rough, Scampers. That is rough. I'm going to go with the quarterbacks in the order that you listed them myself.
Yep.
Is any dissent there?
No, I'd just rather take the weapons that Indy has. At least that provides. I trust that Pittman can do something with the ball in his hands, or maybe Jonathan Taylor, or Josh Downs, and they have much more weapons than New England has to make something out of a tough matchup. So
did San Francisco. But anyway, we are where we are, Scampers. That's where we're at, and I'm going to play the guy with the ball in his hand at every play versus the guys not. And I think that's what it comes down to. Did I mention that video that SiriusXM put out talking about volume? Volume matters. And in this case, those are the guys that are going to get, to me, the certain volume. And it does help that there are no negatives in the Scott Fishbowl. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you, man. JSC just turned up. He wants to know if Julio Jones can be fantasy relevant on the Eagles. Maybe every 8th week? Like one receiver at a time there, Nate? What do you think of that signing? By the way, it's the practice squad to start, but probably just for roster management reasons, they'll move him up to the regular roster before the game this week. They lost Quez Watkins is on IR. I think the Olamide Zacchaeus fans out there are shaking their fists in anger at this one. I will pound my table. I haven't pounded the table in a while, Scampers. You need to remind me. I never do that. So what are your thoughts? Julio, still anything of interest there for you?
No, because at what matchup are you playing them? When are you going to start them? Are you going to just try each week, knowing that, like you said, it's one out of the next 4 weeks he's going to have? And what is it? A touchdown? Because that's not exactly been his calling card necessarily, but it is the Eagles' offense. And what's crazy is they actually just got done saying how happy they were with Olamide Zacchaeus' production in lieu of Quez Watkins, and how well he's fitting in with that offense. And then they do this, so that I don't want anything to do with it. Let someone else spin the fab or play him. I hope that I play against him.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I will not be getting any shares, and even in desperation leagues, I was only half joking when I said only one receiver at a time can do well. kind of is one receiver at a time. By the way, Devontae Smith a little nicked up today, did not practice, so beware of that, people. And apparently he should be throwing more fits on the sidelines because it served Mr. A.J. Brown quite well. And thanks for tuning in, JSC. Appreciate you. Jim and Andrea having a conversation. JSC's been stashing Kyler since week 4, knowing this would happen, and he already had Hollywood looking for the big cash in. I got sent an offer, Matty Boy says, in a 10-team league, full PPR, Dynasty League, DJ Moore and Kendre Miller for Dameon Pierce and Josh Downs. Wow. What do you think, Nate?
For Pierce and Downs. DJ Moore and Kendre Miller for Pierce and Downs, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty big on Kendre Miller coming into the season. And I don't think going in a dynasty format that as much usage as Kamara's gotten, I don't think that's long for the career. So I probably would go DJ Moore and Kendre Miller. And, maybe DJ Moore has Caleb Williams throwing the ball next year and his value stays the exact same and actually probably goes down than what it would with Justin Fields in reality. But I think I might lean that side, just especially with the Devin Singletary.
I lean that side as well. Josh Downs has been fantastic. Most of his bigger volume games have come with Minshew. Not that Anthony Richardson hasn't thrown to him, and Anthony Richardson will develop further as a passer. But I want to say DJ Moore, and I meant to say this in the previous question about DJ Moore. He earned his quarterback proof card through all his time in Carolina. He was consistently a high-end producer despite a series of lesser-than quarterbacks. So I'm on board with this, Matty Boy. I want to keep the DJ Moore, and I want to either get DJ Moore and Kendre Miller or keep them. Scamper says IDP and kickers are people too. Jake Seeley agrees with half of that. The rest of us agree with all of that you said, Mr. Scampers. Dave Listman, howdy, gentlemen, he says. 16-teamer. Ooh, here we go. Standard league, a mess. 1 running back and 2 flexes needed from this motley assortment of characters. Got your pencil ready?
Yep.
Zach Moss, Jerome Ford, Jalen Warren, Tutu Atwell, Romeo Doubs, Cortland Sutton, Dallas Goedert. Sorry if you stepped in something leading through these. Nicely played there, Dave.
And he needs 1 running back and 2 flex. Is that what you said?
1 running back, 2 flex high.
I think I got to go back to the well with Jerome Ford as my running back. If he can do that again, build a little hope in the man after a really tough match. But Indy's not the.
Yeah, I think it's a fair match.
I think Cleveland should control most of the clock in that game, and from defensively, and then try to run that ball. So I'm going to go Ford. And then the other 2, again, standard, so it takes out some of the Jalen Warren hype that I would have. Probably Sutton and Romeo Doubs.
That's probably the direction I'm going to.
You said earlier, Devontae Smith. If Devontae Smith has something wrong, like if he's actually hurt, I'll probably lean Goddard. But I haven't seen anything more than.
Yeah, I don't know that there's I haven't seen anybody super concerned about, about Devontae Smith at this point. Just want to check one more thing here.
He did, yeah. Devontae did not practice with a hamstring. Then again, Dallas Goedert got in limited practice with groin, but it's Wednesday. I'm not going to look too far. But not practicing with a hamstring for Devontae Smith is obviously something to write down.
Yeah, I'm probably with you on this one. I'm going to go with those same 3. All right. That wasn't as hard as it seemed, and I know it's a tough call, but it's at least, Dave, you have options.
Yeah, that's pretty decent. 16-team league. I've seen 12-team leagues.
Right? Like in a 16-team league, I'd be pretty happy with that. Andrea wants to know 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. Chris Olave against Jacksonville. Devontae Smith against Miami. Mostert versus Philadelphia. These are the problems I want to have.
Yeah.
Andrea's a great drafter. I'm not surprised she has these tough decisions.
I'm not either. Tell you what, I mean, I don't care the matchup. How do you ever not lean Raheem Mostert, even if they get Jeff Wilson back? I know, and the matchup's not great, but the matchup's better if they don't have Jalen Carter, if their secondary is banged up still a little bit. So, I mean, I'm still going to lean Mostert. And, I mean, the order would go Mostert, Olave, Smith for me.
Yep, I would agree with that 100%. I think we solved that problem. Stacy Perez says her terrible impression probably jinxed Emari DeMarcado. You do that so much better than I do, Stacy. I feel like I'm like a cheap hack in the world of Emari DeMarcadoing. Golf Boy wants to know, hi, Bob. Hi, Nate. Non-PPR, Ridley versus the New Orleans Saints or Gabe Davis against the Patriots? I just want to say, just when I started to trust you, Gabe Davis, just when I felt like I could rely on you, just when I thought you were the real deal, you turned back into Gabe Davis. Not that Ridley's been lighting it up. Which direction are you going? Tough matchup for Ridley, right?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, actually to the point where I would not have guessed that I would be Davis over Ridley, but I'm not 100% sold that it's going to be Trevor. I'm also, I think he's going to try, but Fair. It's not the matchup that you would want. If I'm Jacksonville, I know these are must-win games, but I would probably rest against this New Orleans team. I think I got to go Gabe Davis. As much as I, fear the goose egg type games, the ups and downs, I think the better matchup. Gross. I don't like it.
I want to co-sign on this one so bad. I think what I would definitely do is wait till what's going on with Trevor Lawrence, right? I mean, let's to be fair, I don't think it's going to be an issue, but Josh Allen nursing a sore shoulder, so that's something that's a factor. I think he will play. He was limited today. He said it's not going to be an issue, but it's worth noting. So I'm going to go with you. I want to play it safe. So if there's a Lawrence, I might go Ridley. And then take my chances. If not, if there's no Ridley or no Trevor Lawrence, then I would probably wait it out on Gabe Davis. I think that's what I would do. Is that horrible, Nate?
No, I think that's exactly how I would phrase it.
Kadarius Toney looks like a slower Mecole Hardman right now. Mr. Scampers correctly assesses. Yet still he makes the occasional play, and I think Mecole Hardman will too. The jet sweeps. That's what it is. Jeff Ratcliffe has a IPA Fridays every week on the show. I have sat in for him on Friday. I have substituted for the great Jeff Ratcliffe. It's no mean feat. And I think on that day, since I knew it was IPA Friday, I had Chris Allen on as my guest. Look at me thinking of him. Look at me like being all thematic. I'm crazy good. Or not. I don't know. Thanks, guys. If I missed Saturday, have a great weekend and good luck to all. Thank you, Kevin, for coming in. We've got a few more minutes here. If you've got another question, get them in. We've got a few more to get through, Nate. Let's roll through them. Halfway PPR, murky situations, says Mr. Scampers. Craig Reynolds of Baltimore, McLaughlin of Green Bay, or Deontay Foreman at Vegas. Scampers, how did this happen?
Yeah, let's hope that he's got, the mix of everybody from the Panthers, Bengals, Cowboys, Texans, Titans, and Jets on his team, and this is what was left over. Well, Craig Reynolds, if he doesn't play or is limited, obviously eliminates that need. McLaughlin is probably the big play that you're hoping for as far as I'm going to shoot for that. And Foreman is you're going to get some touches, probably 20, 18%, 15% of the workload, maybe 20. So I'm going to go McLaughlin, Foreman, Reynolds. If Reynolds plays, I'll probably I might put Reynolds at the top of that list just because we know that he'll take on the David Montgomery role, which is a very lucrative role from what we have seen so far.
Yep, I would agree with that. And so there we are, Scampers. That was a joyous situation. Andrea wants to know when the injury report comes out for Trevor Lawrence not playing. That would be 90 minutes before tomorrow night's kickoff. So 7:20 kickoff. Think about 5:50. Well, I'm thinking my time. 7:20 Eastern time kickoff, or is it 8:20 Eastern time? So about 6:50 will be Eastern time is when the injury report comes out, 90 minutes before kickoff. And I'll have it on the website, Andrea, if you get there. Matty Boy, thanks for the answer. Love the show. Usually just a lurker. Well, welcome on board. By the way, just getting a notification here, Tyson Bagent. I've got nothing to lose. That's the attitude, young man. That's the attitude. I'm going to try and go get him and play him somewhere just for that quote. Scampers, please paint the rosiest picture for my options in the previous questions, as I am 1-5 in my home league. The rosiest option is what we laid out. There is no, the rosiest position is there is going to be no Montgomery, but there's also no Gibbs, and Reynolds is perfectly fine. And what John Bonneville said earlier is true. They're just resting him for his 30 carry output. Otherwise, your next best option is Jaleel McLaughlin breaking off about 5 super long runs, including 2 touchdowns. Your third rosiest option is Deontay Foreman turns into somebody not named Deontay Foreman and does a way better job. Look, he's been good in the past. I don't want to slog on him. But I don't feel like it's great. It is there are worse matchups out there, though. So I'm sorry, Scampers. That was the best I could do. Mike Arts, Devin Singletary is available and on a bye. I have an open spot. Does it make sense to grab him, as it looks like he's getting more of a share? Tyjae Spears also available. If you were choosing between those two, Nate, which one would you choose?
I would probably. I do agree that Singletary is working into that, I'd say, backfield competition, but there's a pretty decent chance that it could be all Spears' backfield here in the next 14 days for the trade deadline, or 13 days, because Derrick Henry is, I'm not saying that he's going to get traded. Don't get me wrong. We don't typically see that type of.
I think you just said that.
Clip it. You're going to clip it here. Derrick Henry will be gone. Tyjae Spears will be the lead back for Tennessee for that amazing Will Levis-led offense down the stretch, where Will Levis and Tyjae Spears take Tennessee on a 1-5 record to close the season out.
This is the bold prediction I've been waiting for all night. This is why Nate Marcum is on the program. You should follow him on Twitter at Nate Marcum. It's his name, NateMarcum. Mr. Scampers thanks us for our valiant effort. Dave Overwood appreciates it too. Thank you, Dave, for the kind words. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Look, we love you people. You're fantastic. You're always here for us. Hopefully, we're always here for you as well, and we give you some decent answers, if not some good conversation. Look, you know my position here. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you what I do and how I'd arrive at those decisions. I know Nate handles it the same way, and that's left for you to sort out, because you're the one who has to deal with yourself on Mondays when the decisions either come to great success or crash and burn. And hopefully there's more wins than losses for all of you. You can catch me on the SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Again, it's Monday, Thursday, Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 hours on Monday and Thursday. Catch me on Saturdays on NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel from 8 to 11. Sundays on the Fantasy Channel from 11 to 1. Nate, when should people dial up your show on the YouTube? When are you live?
So, tonight in 2 hours. So that will be 9 o'clock, the real time, which is Central Standard Time, not that Eastern Louis stuff. I know. But yes, so that is time. If you want to talk a little IDP, hopefully it'll be better information than what I tried spewing out earlier with what's going on in the IDP world. It
was fantastic. It's always fantastic when Nate Marcum comes on board. Again, we appreciate y'all. Go to FootballDiehards.com. It's a website. It's phenomenal. I have it on good authority. My authority is me. You'll get great articles there. Right now, you'll get waiver wire content from Evan Tarchiato, Joe Kalana. Matthew Sharon will be up soon. Soon we'll have Jamie Calandro's DFS articles, John Laub, the Scala. We'll have Casey Joyner. We'll have Justin Lanero. We'll have myself. We'll have Gary Davenport. There will be an entire range of goodness there for you to delve into and figure things out. All the tools as well, DFS lineup optimizers, ownership shares, all the things you need. Good night, everybody. We appreciate you much. We'll see you on Saturday.